How to install macOS Monterey on all unsupported devices. Let's go. All you need is a 16 gigabyte USB drive, at least 16 gigabyte, and we head over to the OpenCore Legacy Patcher website from Dortania, and you will find all the links down in the video description. And when you click here on Getting Started, you can read through all of it. It's a very great tutorial. I really appreciate the guys from Dortania doing so much work and putting so much effort in this. But we head here to download and build macOS installers. And you find here with downloading a script that you just highlight everything, do a right click or a control click, and you say copy. And then we go into the terminal, okay? How you find the terminal? You go to the Launchpad, you go to Other, and then you click on Terminal. Let me just enlarge this so you can read what I'm typing here. And you just do another right click and you say Paste. It's a long script. Don't worry, just hit Return. And then as you find here in the beginning, it says sudo. That means super user do. You have to be administrator and you have to enter now the password of your device where you log in with. You hit return, it downloads some catalogs, and then you see here there are very different types of macOS versions that you can download. As we're heading for Monterey, it just released on Monday. You see here there is number 5. It says 12.01. That was the Monterey version that was released. So choose a product to download. We just say 5 and hit enter. And now it's downloading. You see it down here, 11.2 gigabytes, and it might take a while, and then you have the installer on your Mac. While it's downloading, we can just minimize this. We head here to building and installing OpenCore, and when you click on that link, you get to the GitHub repository of Dortania, and you see just 16 hours ago, so brand new, they released version 0.3.1 of the Legacy Patcher. And the reason for that is that they had to fix a non-metal acceleration crashing on the version 12.0.1. That's the one we're just downloading. That's the release version of Monterey. And they had a non-metal control center crashing after the beta 10 and newer. So we really should go with that brand new OpenCore Legacy Patcher version. And I'm gonna download the text-based installer. So that is the TUI. You can also download the GUI, that's a graphics UI, or the offline version if you don't have internet connection. But as you're just downloading right now, you should have an internet connection. But the text-based UI has much more settings, and I can show you better what's happening behind the curtain. So we will just download the OpenCore Patcher TUI app zip. So while this is downloading, we just head back to the tutorial and we click on download and build macOS installers, where we just copied the script. And if you just scroll down a little bit, it will show you how you're gonna work with the disk utility. Okay, here with building. And the disk utility, it's the same. You just click on the Launchpad, and here in Other, where we just had the terminal, there's the disk utility as well. So you see here the disk utility, and this might look different with your device because it now lists every hard disks and USB drives you have in your device. Make sure at first that you here with View, you click on Show All Devices. Okay, that the little check mark is here with Show All Devices. And I already plugged my USB drive in, and here under External, you see the USB flash disk media. Okay. And now we have to format that, so all data will be lost. Be sure not to have any important data on this USB drive. Make a backup first. And then you click here on Erase in the top right corner. And let's just call it USB. It will be changed afterwards anyhow. And as format, Let me just zoom in a little bit. We use macOS Extended Journaled and GUID partition map. These are the settings we need, and then you click erase, and you see here it is ejected, the partition table is created, and it's going to be formatted, and operation successful, done. You can just go back to this. Then we can close the disk utility, we don't need that anymore. Now if we are scrolling down here in the tutorial, you will find the settings that we just used to delete the USB drive. And when you scroll down a little bit, we have to run the create install media command. So to get the newest command, just click on the link for Apple and you're on Apple's support website. And if we just scroll down a little bit, you see use the create install media command in terminal. And here you have the entry for Monterey. So just click in here, highlight everything, make a right click and say copy. And then we go into the terminal and we see now the download is finished. You see here it was downloading and installing, it fixed the bug from Apple, and it created a DMG file, image file for the installer. How do we find this image file? You can just go into the Finder, and in your home folder, if you don't know how to get there, just go to Go, and here you have all the different locations and you choose Home. You're in your home folder, you'll find a new folder that's called macOS Installer. If you go in here, you see the install macOS 12.01 DMG file. Just make a double click and it will open this image and verify it and mount it so you can use it as a regular disk. And inside that image, we will find the installer app and we will copy this app to applications that we have the install app on our device. Just give it some time and then we continue. Okay, there we are. There is the app, and we can just take this app and drag it to applications. So there's this little green plus. That means it's now copied into our applications folder. There we are. It's 12 gigabytes and it takes about 2 minutes. And then we can start the create install media command. Okay, so we just check here in applications that we have the install macOS Monterey app here. And then we can go back into our terminal. And the only thing we do now is a right click and we say paste. So the command from Apple's website, the install macOS Monterey blah blah blah, is pasted. Hit return. That is a sudo command as well. So we have to enter the password. And now one thing happened. We just pasted it, but as you see here, the USB drive has to have the name My Volume. So we just called our USB drive USB. So we just paste it again and we just change My Volume to USB at the end, and then it finds the USB drive. If you gave it a different name, just enter the name you gave the USB drive. And it says, okay, it will be everything erased. We type yes, return. It's erasing the USB drive, and then it's copying all the needed installer files from macOS Monterey onto this USB drive as a bootable USB drive. Give it about 20 minutes, depending on the USB drive speed, and if it's a 2.0 or 3.0. Be patient, as I said at the beginning, and when it's done, we can continue. All right, the install media is ready, the USB drive is ready, and now we have to install the OpenCore Legacy Patcher that installs the OpenCore bootloader onto the USB drive so we can use it. And to use that, we go to the downloads folder and you see there's the zip file. We just make a double click and you see there's the OpenCore patcher. So we just make another double click and start the patcher, and we say open. We want to open it. And you see here, just enlarge this again so you can see it. There's a legacy patcher 031, and it already found my model Mac Pro 5.1. So your hardware should be written up here and should be automatically detected. If not, just choose number 4 and change the model to the appropriate one. It's important to choose the correct one. Don't spoof any other hardware model here, because it will install the appropriate patches and kext the driver files that fit to your device. Okay, so be sure that your device is the selected model. And then it just said, okay, this model is supported. That means it's supported by the OpenCore legacy patcher, not by macOS Monterey or Big Sur. And we just hit one, build OpenCore, and it downloads OpenCore. Let's just go up a little bit. So you see here, building configuration on the model Mac Pro 5.1, and it's downloading OpenCore 073. A whole lot of kext files. Then you can just hit enter to go back. And now it's downloaded. We just say number 2, install OpenCore to USB or internal drive. We now do it with the USB drive, do the installation, and you can just do the same if everything works fine again and choose your Monterey hard drive to just install the OpenCore on your regular hard drive, so you don't need the USB drive anymore if everything works, and you can get rid of the USB drive. Now we choose 2. There we go. And now make sure that you find the USB drive. Normally you can just check for the size. There you see disk 8, the flash disk, and it's 16 gigabytes. The other hard drives is 1 terabyte, 1.5 and 2 terabyte, or 480 gigabyte system drive. It's an SSD. So I definitely choosing disk 8, that's the USB drive. So we say 8, hit return, and then we have to choose the EFI partition. That's 1 here. It's already with a marked with a star because as it says, the likely candidate is denoted. We say 1, and then we have, that's the same in the background, it's the same sudo scripts that you've seen before. So as sudo means super user, we have to enter our password. And now it's copying OpenCore on the EFI partition of the USB drive that was created before. Already done. Hit enter to continue, and we're good. The post install volume patch, as the name said, is for post installation. So when you have installed Monterey on your device, and we can just take a sneak peek. This is for non-metal graphics acceleration. So if you have an old device that has an Intel Iron Lake to Sandy Bridge, or NVIDIA Tesla to Fermi, or AMD TerraScale 1 and 2 graphics card that are not metal capable, and you need the metal API since Mojave, then you would need this patch. Same audio support for the iMac 7.1 and 8.1. If you have such an old iMac model, you cannot just change the audio device. So this patch gives you your audio back. Okay, so you can patch it, or you just can unpatch it if it didn't work, but it's still experimental and development phase, so be careful. Just use this patch if you really have to. We just type B to exit that, and if you want to, you can go into 5 for patcher settings, and then you can switch on debug settings. So you might switch on the verbose mode. If you get problems during installation or boot, you see the error messages. I just want to show you the debug settings, and here at the first you can switch on the verbose mode. So you see a lot of text going through your display during boot. You can switch that on. if you are having trouble installing Monterey and you want to see at which point there might be a kernel panic or what causes the error. So if you really get stuck, you can switch on the verbose mode here. We don't need that first. We say Q for quit, and Q for quit. So we say terminate, and that was it. You most probably have upgraded it to a metal capable graphics card. Apple on its homepage shows a list of officially compatible graphic cards that you can put into this Mac to have it metal enabled and to officially support it until macOS Mojave. So this is the fastest you can get. It's the RX 580, the Radeon RX 580. But it's a regular PC graphic card, so it doesn't have a Mac BIOS on it. So that was the screen I was looking for. I just put the USB drive we just prepared and an empty SSD, an empty hard disk into my Mac and let it boot. And as it doesn't find anything to boot on the empty drive, it boots from the EFI partition of the USB drive, which is OpenCore. And this you see here is the boot selector of OpenCore, by the way, which even works with a regular PC graphics card like I have here in my Mac when you do a clean install. So let me just get out of the picture, zoom into the monitor so you can see the installation process, and let's install Monterey. So if you have to erase your hard disk before installation, you can just go to the disk utility, say continue here, and same as with the USB drive, make sure that here with view you have selected show all devices, and then you click on the internal drive like I have my Kingston SSD here. You say erase, let's call it simply SSD, and you format it just as macOS Extended Donald with GUID partition map, and you say erase, and then macOS will take care about all the other formats that's needed for the installation. But this is a very good start to have the SSD clean and ready for the installation. Operation successful, you click done, and then you can just close the disk utility and we can continue installing Monterey. And here it's obvious, this is the USB drive called install macOS Monterey. We cannot install Monterey onto the USB drive, which doesn't make any sense. We just select the SSD we just cleaned and say continue. congratulations, you've done it. You just installed the brand new macOS Monterey on your unsupported device. So now one more step is missing. We have to install the OpenCore to this Monterey hard disk to be able to get rid of the USB drive for booting. There are two ways. The easy way, you just again download the OpenCore patcher, start it, say open, and then let me just enlarge this again so you can read it. You say again, as we did with the USB drive, build OpenCore, so it downloads everything, and then you say install OpenCore to USB or internal drive, and then it would like to access files on this volume, you say OK. And now we would not choose the flash disk, in my case disk 8, but disk 0, which is here the 120 GB SSD drive. So we say 1, and then we say again 1 for the EFI drive, and it would install everything on your system drive, do a reboot, and you're good. I would like to show you the manual way, and that's also so you know how to access the EFI partition. And so I just will go back, quit this, and to access the EFI partition manually, we have to go to the terminal. So we say Launchpad, Other, Terminal, and I will just enlarge this again so you can read it. And I also give you the commands down in the video description. And now we say disk util list. That gives you a list of all your partitions. And when you scroll through this list, you see there are a lot of disks like disk 8, 7, 6, whatever. Some of them are internal physical, that are real disks, and some are synthesized. That is because of the APFS, the Apple file system. Don't need to worry about all this technical stuff. So, but what you should find are the internal physical drives. And you see here internal physical, that is 1.5 terabyte, one is 1 terabyte, one is 2 terabytes. So these are my data storage hard disks. And here on top, there's an internal physical 120 gigabytes. That is the boot disk. And there's one partition here. It's always 210 megabytes, so 209.7 megabytes EFI. And we need the identifier. This is disk 0S1. This is our EFI partition of the Monterey boot disk. And now as we want to copy the EFI partition from the USB drive to this boot disk, we have to look for the USB drive. And that is something that is external. So if I scroll through this list, I find here external physical with 16 gigabytes, so that fits. And there's also an EFI partition, disk 8S1. So what we now say is sudo super user do disk util mount disk 8S1. So we want to mount the EFI partition of the USB drive. Asks for the password, and now it's mounted. If we now open the Finder, here on the left you find one more partition that's called EFI, and that is the EFI partition of the USB drive. So we just drag those two folders onto the desktop, and we just copy it to the desktop. Now, to not get confused, we eject this again, and we say eject, and now we want to mount the Monterey EFI partition. So in the terminal again, if you just push button up, it just uses the last command, and we now change this to disk 0S1, and now this is mounted. We go back to the Finder. There is the EFI partition. We just take those two folders we copy to the desktop, and we copy that to the EFI partition. And when it says the folder EFI already exists, we say merge. And now our Monterey hard disk has an EFI partition. We can close this, we can close this, and we can eject the USB drive completely. And then we do a restart, and then it should start without the USB drive into the open core and into Monterey. So I hope your system is up and running now. And if you like that tutorial, I really would appreciate if you give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And just one more thing, if you want to check if your system has GPU, has video acceleration, just a very simple trick. You go to the website videoproc.com. I give you the link down in the description, and you just download the free VideoProc converter. Okay, just free download. And when you have downloaded it, just make a double click on the DMG file, get this into applications. And when it's done, you go into applications and you start VideoProc converter. Open. You just say not activate, you say remind me later. And when you go to the settings, you see here in general at the front you have the hardware acceleration engine, and you go to options. And now it checks if it's H264 and HEVC acceleration is possible with your setup. And you see here, this one says available, the hardware acceleration is enabled. And hopefully the same with the HEVC codec. Yes, it's available, it's enabled, so all the decoders are hardware accelerated. So that was it, and I'd like to thank you for watching my tutorials. And just if you have some time, go through my channel. You'll find a lot about flying, about RC flying, real flying as flight instructor, about Macs, PCs, and a lot of other stuff. And see you soon in the next video. Bye bye.